Welcome inside snowy Michigan Stadium, where the drought has ended. Ohio State has ended its 4-game losing streak against Michigan, beating the Wolverines 27-9. A statement performance by the Buckeyes. The game we had been waiting to see for the Buckeyes in this rivalry for the last 5 years. They got punched in the mouth a little bit early, but they responded. And in the second half of the game, firmly taking the game over to win this game in dominant fashion, complete a 12-0 regular season, punch their ticket to the Big Ten championship game, and most importantly, taking back upper hand in the rivalry, earning a pair of gold pants for the first time since 2019.
It's hard to even know where to start with this game. And first off, just the catharsis of this moment, right? Ryan Day kept it pretty humble in his press conference, as he is wont to do. Said he had some thoughts in his mind of what he would say after he finally won another one of these games, and he ended up just passing it off to the players, passing it off to his fellow coaches. But I think, obviously, the moment you look at as sort of the turning point for this game was after the Julian Sayin interception. The defense coming onto the field in a quick change situation, I think allows one first down, but they get stopped for the field goal. Then Ohio State comes back the next drive, is just ultra aggressive. As Donovan Jackson would have said last year, they let their nuts hang on a 4th and 5, bombing it down the field to Jeremiah Smith for a touchdown. Maybe there's some controversy about whether it should have been a fumble for a touchback. I think he had possession at some point when he crossed the goal line. In any case, Ohio State won this game in a comfortable and a dominant enough fashion that I think you go back and you say, well, it doesn't matter. They were the far better team in this game. And the unit that I really want to shout out first is the offensive line, because I have been critical of the offensive line this season. A lot of the media has been critical of the offensive line this season. Said coming into this game, hey, Ohio State might need to end up leaning on the pass, pass it 60-70% if you have to, because of how previous renditions of this game have gone. And Ohio State did come out passing. First 2 plays, they took a shot on the first play on offense. Second play was the interception. They opened up the offense through the air in the first half, but as the game progressed, the offensive line, man, they took Michigan's soul. That 12-minute drive to go get a field goal and go up 3 scores was really the final dagger, and it was early in the fourth quarter when you kicked that field goal, it already felt like it was over. Julian Sayin had clean pockets all day against a really good pass rush with Derek Moore, with some of the defensive ends that Michigan has. And just, he never got pressure. There were times he just sat back in the pockets for 5 seconds until he found somebody. And the touchdown pass to Carnell Tate, the 50-yard bomb that put them up 24-9 and made it a 2-score game in the second half. He had all day to throw on that play. So as much as you could talk about the defense, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate having a great game coming back, Bo Jackson doing what he did, I'll let you dive into all of that, Dan. But I wanted to start by saying this was the best offensive line's far and away best performance of the year, and they brought the physicality needed to win this game in the fashion Ohio State did.
And I think that is very much the story of this game, because there were the fireworks, the 50-yard bomb to Carnell Tate, a 35-yard touchdown to Jeremiah Smith. That was the big storyline all week, was, are those guys going to play? And they both showed up. But you think back to when this rivalry flipped toward Michigan in 2021, and it was a similar kind of weather day to today, some snow, some cold, and Michigan in the second half of a game runs the ball all over Ohio State. The Buckeyes can't run the ball, and it started this whole narrative about Michigan's the tougher team, and Ryan Day's teams aren't tough, and they're too finesse. And today was like the turning the page and completely flipping that on its head. I think that 12-minute drive, to me, that was really the story of the game. 20 plays, 81 yards. They run the ball 16 times, just methodical. It reminded me very much of the drive last year at Penn State to win the game. And it was it's one of those drives, you're thinking about it, and Woody Hayes would be proud right now if he was watching this drive from Ohio State. Ironically, a drive led by a man named Bo here in Ann Arbor to really salt the game away for the Buckeyes. And I think, going off of that, I think certainly this team, it made a statement about its toughness today. It made a statement about its physicality today. And to me, this was the last box that needed to be checked for Ryan Day. I wrote a column about that. That's on 11warriors.com right now. About, he already proved with last year's national championship run that he was one of the best coaches in college football. But when you're a coach at Ohio State, you get measured by your record against Michigan as much as anything else. And this was the one box he needed to check. He needed to prove they could come win this game. And look, like first 10 minutes of a game, like I'm sitting there like, oh, here we go again. Like it had that kind of feel. Like, you had an interception by Julian Saint on the first drive. Then the second drive, they run 5 plays, actually I think 6 plays. The 6th one didn't count because it was a false start by Bennett Christian. But they run 6 plays inside the 3-yard line. They have to settle for a field goal. And you start thinking, oh man. And even the next drive, you're facing 4th and 5 at the 35-yard line. And you're thinking like, oh man, if they get stopped here, are we just going to see the same old story again? And then they hit that touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith. And it's like everything changed just like that. And the defense was phenomenal today. It's the first time since 2007 that Michigan did not score a touchdown in the game. So we've seen dominance from the defense all year long. Probably one of the craziest stats of this game, Michigan had 108 rushing yards midway through the second quarter. They finished the game with 100 rushing yards. Yeah. That's how dominant the Ohio State defense was in the second half of this game. So I think really just on both sides of the ball, like there were those flash moments, the ones we talked about all week of like, you have to be willing to take those shots down the field, they were. But in the end, they ended up winning this game the way this game is usually won. By dominating their opponent in the trenches, by outrunning their opponent, controlling time of possession, and just being the tougher team at the end of the day.
Yeah, and diving into the defense, look, I think the defense obviously is as equal part to play in that rushing yardage discrepancy in the second half as Ohio State. Its offensive line is. Michigan fans might say Jordan Marshall was hurt, Jordan Marshall this, whatever. I don't care. If your offensive line is getting overwhelmed play after play after play, which it was, you're not going to run the ball with Emmitt Smith. I don't care who's back there. Like, this was... In the second half, Ohio State started running some more 4-3, started running some more of those penny fronts we've seen throughout the year. Just more of the looks to quell Michigan's running game. And once they actually focused on just, hey, sell out, good luck beating us with your arm, Bryce Underwood, essentially what Ohio State said, I think. That's when Michigan just didn't have anything to do on the ground. We saw Caden McDonald doing his thing, getting in the backfield, blowing up plays, Sonny Styles. Like, there were a lot of tackles for loss and plays where the offensive line for Michigan was just overwhelmed. And I believe Andrew Marsh, Michigan's star receiver, finished with 0 targets in this game. It's like Ohio State's secondary was also able to shut down a lot of the things Michigan wanted to do in the passing game. It was just total domination, especially in the second half from the defense, and you combine that with the running game. I really can't believe I'm saying this about this game. Ohio State won the time of possession battle 40 minutes to 20. They doubled Michigan's time of possession in this game. It's just they won in the ways that first it was the ways that you expected, but then in the second half it was just dominating in the ways that Michigan had, or the ways that Michigan won in previous renditions of this rivalry under Ryan Day. And the defense's performance, like, obviously you can't overshadow it either. It just all around, both sides of the ball, I don't think there's a unit you can point to for Ohio State in this game and say they didn't bring their best today.
Well, when we talked about the keys to the game going into the game, they didn't pass the first one. The first one was start fast. They didn't start fast. But we talked about dominate on defense. They certainly did that. We talked about dictating the game on offense. They certainly did that, especially in the second half when they basically said, we're going to run the ball, try to stop us, and Michigan couldn't stop them. So, those were 2 big ones right there. I mean, special teams, there were no spectacular plays on special teams for the Buckeyes, but they did what they needed to do. Michigan, on the other hand, had an 11-yard punt that set up an Ohio State touchdown. And so in all 3 phases of the game, Ohio State won this game. The middle 8, that's a huge storyline. Ryan Day always talks about the middle 8. I think, that third to fourth quarter drive is probably going to be the one to remember the most, but there was also that 5-minute drive at the end of the first half. Yeah. When it's a 10-9 game at that point, And if you get stopped, maybe Michigan scores, they take the lead, it's a whole different game. They take off pretty much the whole clock for the rest of the second quarter, finish with a very well-designed 4-yard touchdown to Brandon Innes, take a 17-9 lead, and it's like from there, like I think we both felt going into halftime, like, okay, like Ohio State's in a pretty good spot here. As long as they don't let Michigan come and tie the game early in the third quarter, you're going to feel pretty good. And they didn't score. I think they punted on their first drive of the second half, but they get a quick stop. Then there was the shanked punt. They get the deep ball to Carnell Tate, and at that point, it was like, all right, like I think this is the year. I think they are finally going to do it. So I mean, just a phenomenal performance for Ohio State and a phenomenal run. I mean, you think back to when we were doing this at Ohio Stadium 364 days ago, and we said it. I mean, let's admit it. We said it. Ryan Day should be coaching for his job in Ohio State's first-round college football playoff game. That was the tenor around the program. I mean, Ryan Day got booed off the field by his own fans 364 days ago in Ohio Stadium. Now we're standing here. Ohio State has won 16 games in a row since then. I think it's like 7 or 8. I think it's 7 ranked wins. I
believe that sounds accurate.
Yeah, they have 7 ranked wins in that stadium.
5 to close the year, and then Texas.
They actually have 8 straight ranked wins because Michigan wasn't ranked last year, but 7 ranked wins, and I think 6 of those are against top 15 teams. And so, you just look at where Ohio State is. I mean, they're defending national champs, and now they're certainly going to go into the postseason as the national championship favorites. Of course, first order of business is trying to win a Big Ten championship. The first streak they wanted to end was the losing streak against Michigan. Now the second one is they want to go win their first Big Ten championship game next Saturday, and I think we'll talk probably a lot more about that tomorrow on 11 Warriors Live. A 1 versus 2 game, Ohio State, Indiana. But, no matter what at this point, I think Ohio State I would say they've clinched a first-round bye in the college football playoff with what they did today. They certainly look like the best team in college football, and this was the big one. I mean, this was, there could be different opinions out there about what's bigger, winning a national championship or winning Michigan. But I think, this, to me, like, even after the national championship, this was still on Ohio State's mind. From the moment they won the national championship last year, they started thinking about, okay, now we got to go beat Michigan. Now they're going to say, okay, now we got to go win the Big Ten championship. So they're only going to celebrate for so long, but there's no question. I mean, you could see it in Ryan Day's face walking off the field, sitting there in a press conference. This one feels good, man. I mean, this is the one that has eluded him 4 years in a row. And to finally do it, I think it's such a big weight off of his shoulders. And you now really look at it and say, okay, like Ohio State, like if they can finish this thing off, like I think right now you look at it and say, Ohio State, everybody else in college football wants to be Ohio State right now. Like they are sitting pretty. They still got a lot more work to do to go win their second straight national championship. But this is sure the perfect way to end and continue the streak, by the way. 11 games in a row now that Ohio State has won by at least 18 points. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. Again, to beat Michigan that comfortably was a statement in and of itself. And just to put that 5-ton monkey off of your back, like it's like a breath of fresh air where I think Ohio State is the best team in college football. I definitely, if you asked me, I would predict them to beat Indiana and win their 3 college football playoff games and repeat as national champions. Like, definitely at that place with this team. But even if you don't do those things, I honestly think this win is enough to feel like the season is something of a success, even if you fall short in the Big Ten title game and don't ultimately win the college football playoff national championship. It's just like this game is a religion in and of itself. I've said it before. 11 Warriors are Ramsey Nasrallah, who writes our weekly situational, definitely has like that type of blood runs through his veins. And days like today too, I think I said it on last year's After Carmen, it's when the small town Ohio kid in me bubbles to the surface a little bit, and you just feel every moment. The weight is so much greater. this win feels like collecting that big piece of hardware. It feels as cathartic as that national championship was last year in many ways. And to just write the course, to change the narratives about Ryan Day, and to, again, win it in the physical fashion they did. Not that they needed to, but it adds a little extra stamp on it. It adds a little extra, like, yeah, not only did they beat Michigan, they bullied them. They out-physicaled them. So can't say enough about this performance, what it means to Ohio State fans, what it means to this program. Best of luck celebrating out there. Don't party. Don't do anything stupid, but celebrate it properly out there.
Yeah, no matter what happens rest of the season, we're going to remember this game today, because that's just what this game is. We're going to remember this as being the game that ended that 4-year drought, those 4 years of pain for Ryan Day and these Buckeyes. And they should go celebrate this one tonight. I'm sure tomorrow they're going to be back to work at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center getting ready for Indiana. Just like we'll be back getting ready for the Big Ten Championship game. There's a teleconference tomorrow with both Ryan Day and Kurt Signetti, so we'll have coverage of that on 11warriors.com. We will be with Chase Brown tomorrow afternoon. That's been provided that we may make it through the snowstorm back to Columbus. So we got to get going here because it's snowing out. We got to get home, but we will have so much more to come from this Ohio State win over Michigan on 11warriors.com. I want to thank our sponsor, First Bank of Central Ohio, for sponsoring our shows all season long. For now, he's Andy Andrews. I'm Dan Hope. This has been After Carmen. We'll catch you next time.